I literally pressed mute as I came online. Not the best of things to do, is it, when you're doing a live stream? Right. John here, me, back on the Learning React course from Scrimba. Got a new view using this new software called Melon. A bit better than StreamYard. They've given me a trial for a week, the pro version, so it supports 180p. So hopefully the code looks a bit clearer on these videos. Right, let's get to it anyway. As you can see there, this video is, move it around as well. You can't do that on StreamYard. Use append instead of ReactDOM.render. So ReactDOM is the global React variable that you give, renders the method or function that you use to print the HTML to the selected element. This is a thought experiment, apparently. Shift over, get on there. Right. Stop crapping. Let's get cracking. Where we go.
With you, and that is to figure out why we're using ReactDOM.render instead of just using the DOM append method that you've probably used before in JavaScript. I've written the first line for you, and that's to import React from React. That will just allow you to write some JSX. Your challenge, as you can see in this little 4-step process here, is to create just a really simple sample page in JSX. It has to be greater than or equal to 4 elements, just to get your fingers working a little bit. And I want you to save that JSX to a variable. Remember that that variable needs to be one parent element with some children elements nested inside of it. In other words, we can't just have 2 sibling elements saved in a variable in JSX. Then I want you to select the div with the ID of root using whatever selector you want to use, and then use .append to append your JSX. If you need to do a quick Google search for how to use .append, that's totally fine. And then before you run your code, I want you to see if you can guess what's going to show up in the browser before you run the code, and then run your code and see if you can explain what does show up in the browser. Pause here and play around with this a bit.
Doesn't want a lot here, does he? Jesus. Right. Quick FYI, he ditched CDNs in the last video, and he's now using these dependencies there. You see them. Did Bob. Hence this import React from React. Can't remember what that is, but I don't suppose it's relevant to this. Right, let's see if I can do this challenge. Number 1. Create a sample page in JSX, 4 elements, and save them to a variable. Right. A sample page. What should we do? My name and where I live. So for I think. Fell off. Didn't want to come in. Right. My wife. Occupation. I'll find this up. So, name, age. Let's copy all this out so I don't have to repeat it. What will be if I'm not doing this? What do I want it to be? I'll sit around in front of a computer all day making stupid videos, programming, and no one watches. Create a sample page in JFX and save it in a variable. I've done that. We did with the idea of root and use append to append your JSX. To append your JSX. Select the div with the idea of root. What? It's good. Right. And to append your JSX. And, and me. Shut the browser before running the code. Right, so what do we know? JSX compiles. JSX produces JavaScript object. So I think it'll print an object. No, it won't print an object, or will it? Let's just see. My guess is it'll print some sort of object in the root. Fail to execute. Right, so I don't know what happens when we try to append JSX to our div root using append instead of ReactDOM. I'm just going to quickly Google job and Mozilla's opened up. You can switch. Can I switch? I'm sharing to show you. Screen. Chrome tab. There you go. Shut up, Scrimba. Element append method inserts a set of node objects or string objects after the last child of the element. String objects are inserted as equivalent text nodes. Right, okay. So it's in div. Right. I need to add it to a variable and don't I? Right click stop sharing. No, it kills me. Show on screen. Right, back where we were. Right. I think that variable there. Boot. On the JavaScript. Able to play with. Root should be able to use the append method now. Root append child me. Ah, it's inserted an object. Right, yeah, that's what I expected. See if you can guess what will show up in the browser before we're in it. Yeah, I said an object. That's console log. Console log me. It's in. Print. A load of objects. Yes, it has. So I do remember things. Look, there it is. There's the me object. The props. How did he get it printing the props on the screen? Can't remember. See if you can explain what actually shows me around. Well, I said an object in her, so I'm right, I think. Let's find out if I am. Come on, Bob, what do you got for me?
Okay, well, let's create our JSX. We'll say const page equals, and I'll open my parentheses so I can write my JSX on its own line. And we'll start with a div just to surround everything. And I don't know, let's say I'm making a page about why I, in H3, I love React.
I'm skipping forward a bit, Bob. A bit boring.
Let's see, I need to get rid of this. And it's very actively maintained by some very skilled people. Again, the JSX you chose to put in here is not terribly important. So we'll use document.getElementById root and then use the DOM nodes append method to append our page, and we'll see what shows up here. Now, of course, I know what's going to show up, so
I should have just done that. I should have not listened to the autocomplete or to the IntelliSense. I should have just written it. That's what I was doing. So I was right once again. That's what matters.
So I'm just going to run the code, and we see that we get object object. This object object is sort of a string representation of a regular JavaScript object. Something I can do to actually make that object appear is to stringify it using JSON. So I can actually say JSON.stringify, and we will stringify that object so that it puts JSON on the page. I'll hit save, and look at that. We get a JavaScript object. Now, step 4, see if you can explain why this actually shows up in the browser. Well, kind of the whole purpose of this thought experiment was to remind you that JSX returns plain JavaScript objects. At this point in time, it has nothing to do with the DOM. It's not recognized by the browser as anything important dealing with the DOM. It's only when we try to render it using ReactDOM.render that React can take these JavaScript objects and actually turn them into real DOM elements that the browser can interpret as things like first level headers or ordered lists. So let's go ahead for the sake of practice and fix this. I'm going to update our challenge here. Okay, simply put, your challenge is to fix our code. And don't forget, we're not using those CDNs in our HTML anymore, which is what used to give us a global variable called ReactDOM. So you'll have to see if you can remember how we get access to ReactDOM. Pause the screencast here and try to fix our code.
I absolutely do not remember how to get access to the global ReactDOM without the CDN. I have to go back.
Okay, at this point, it is not go CDNs out, it backed for JSX to work. So anyway, throughout the duration of this course, statement outside of it's not something you'll need to import ReactDOM from React-DOM. And now, fingers crossed,
There we go. So I want to put page there. And then what's in here? Should work. Go me.
In order to use React DOM, I will need to import it, and we'll import it from the React DOM package. Then instead of selecting my div with the ID of root, actually I'm going to need that anyway, so I will leave that code there. I'll say ReactDOM.render. The thing I want to render is my page, so we'll put page, and the where I want to render it is inside of that div with the ID of root. I'm going to comment this out so it doesn't break it. We'll hit save, and there we go. Awesome. So simply put, ReactDOM's job, or the ReactDOM.render method's job, is to take React elements and interpret them in a way that turns them into real DOM elements that the browser can understand. Okay, with that understanding, it's only a small jump to work on our section project, which is to build a static page in React. We're going to start the first steps of that in the next screencast.
Pretty straightforward. See you in the next one.